Wow. This is terrifying and exciting at the same time. Hopefully we can hear me. Can we do a sound check? Hopefully I should be coming through fairly clear. This is the first for me, so just seeing who's out there. Looks like there's only one, but still. All the sound is good. Okay, excellent. Good stuff. I did have 4 viewers earlier, but I think I scared them all off. Oh no. Pause back. This doesn't update very quickly. Hello all. Put a face to the name, I guess. This is completely new territory for me. So this is just going to be a general chit chat, basically a test to see how I can progress going forward, whether or not I do more live streams and talk about some of my previous videos, projects. You can air your grievances if you wanted to. I do have a couple of comments that have been, well, critical, but still, I do take some of the criticisms as a positive thing and try and turn it around. But you can't please everyone at the same time. So this is just a massive experiment for me. So this is what it is. I've been a avid hobbyist and tinkerer for God knows how long, probably 25 or 30 years since a kid, pulling things down, taking them apart, seeing how they tick. And then sort of later on in life, understanding how they work rather than just pulling things down for the hell of it. So yeah, Kevin, morning. Well, it's evening here, but you in the UK somewhere. But that's this time slot here is just an experiment for me. So I'm just finding my feet where you know certain time slots and things sort of fit in. I'll probably experiment with different time slots during my West Australian time, because it's where I'm based, and see how it fits in with the rest of the world. It does seem like predominantly US and UK viewers, a couple of New Zealanders, but I haven't got enough data to generally sort of gauge exactly where my subscriber base is. But anyway, so what can I talk about? Just want to fill out the time. I'm not looking at doing a massively long stream, more or less just to get to know my subscribers, seeing, you know, what sort of pulled them into the channel, what made them tick, what made them sort of click that subscribe button. 11 AM in the UK. Well, I guess, are you familiar with retro computing and general electronics and stuff yourself, or you just like to sort of engage and see what other people are up to? Because I follow a guy in the UK called Gadget UK. He's been hitting the live streams hard lately, and very, very entertaining from my point of view, at least anyway. As you can see, I did a video, number 30 on the Amiga 2000, sitting right there. That was, that whole repair and diagnostics of that machine was inspired by him. So that's where I got that sort of inspiration from. I've been really, really keen to stay on top of all that. So yeah, so you guys have, most YouTube channels that I follow have inspired me to do my own channel. I mean, I've had a YouTube account for since 2014, and it was only January last year I decided to upload my first video, and every time I see it or someone mentions it, I just cringe because that was my first video. And yeah, how things have changed. I think I've progressed and my videos have evolved, some to their own detriment, some, you know, that actually worked out quite well. I'm surprised. And I'll tell you what, my review videos that I've been doing seem to be the best performers, especially my soldering iron one, number 17, I think it was. That's received some criticisms and you know, positive and negative, it's fine. It's not a drama. You can't sail through life without copying a bit of flack, but that's okay. Take it for what it is, work with what the valid points you have in there and just continue on. So, wow, what a bit about me. I work full time in a completely different field. 4 kids, a partner, a house, and a hobby that costs me a lot of money. But it keeps me interested and I love learning. I love learning a lot. So trying to find ways around systems and how they interact, electronics especially, designing some bits and pieces to solve day-to-day problems that I have that things aren't normally commercially available is what I'm into. So yeah, I'm all about that sort of thing. A bit of machining, fabrication, a bit of welding. You can see, I don't know if you can see it in the shot. Maybe not, it's just slightly out the shot. My latest fabrication was a table, a workbench for the shop. I don't know if you can see it. You will in a minute. All things mechanical, electrical. There's so much I can't even think of them all. Anywho, I'm just going to throw on some. All hobbies cost money. Yeah, they do. Unfortunately, I think mine's a little bit excessive in at times, but I mean, test equipment and bits and pieces like that certainly pile up over time. But very handy sort of progress in projects and business. So I'll just pop that back a little bit. So hopefully the video quality is coming through all right. I just need to know and get a feel for any buffering or any sort of issues that way. The sound quality should be okay. I've done extensive testing previously, so I think I've worked out all the bugs. But you never know. A bit different from doing your own practice runs to then going live. This is certainly an endeavour and a half for me. What else? What else could I talk about? And feel free to chat and fire off anything if you feel like you want to have something explained as far as one of my videos is concerned, or elaborate or clear something up. Yeah, just shoot me a question and I'll do my best. Thanks, Kevin. All smooth so far. Excellent. Good stuff. I have been watching a few live streams today from other guys that I follow, and they've been having dramas with their internet. Given the situation out in the world at the moment, the internet's getting hit pretty hard. So it does lend to possible, bottlenecks that could be happening out there, but I don't know. I haven't had bottlenecks as such because I've now moved to working from home. Luckily, my job's fairly flexible like that, so I can do my full role working from home. So that's been a godsend in that regard. One of the fortunate ones to still have paid employment at the moment. But yeah, I don't know if you can see the half pulled apart keyboard in front of it. Oh, you would have. This is half pulled apart at the moment. I'm pulling the keycaps off. There's a little bath over here. In case you're wondering, it's filthy, absolutely filthy. So I'm just pulling it apart. It's been in storage for years. I think it's had a rat's nest in it, or been in a rat's nest. I have cleaned it a little bit, but it definitely needs in between the keys and stuff sorted. I am super impressed that these little silicone cups, which act like the keycap springs, are in perfect condition. And you think they look like the day they were new. I'm just completely blown away. So I was pulling the keys off prior to doing the video, but I thought, oh, better stop. Get stuck into going live. So I did schedule it. So yeah. I have no real direction in this live stream at the moment, apart from seeing who pops in, addressing any questions and concerns. But yeah, like I say, this is the first for me. What I can say though is, let's go with what am I into mostly. I've got my head around 3D printing. I've got a couple of 3D printers out in the corner office in the workshop here. One massive Tron XY or Tronxy, whatever, however you want to pronounce it. 500 by 500 bed with a 600 high build volume. This thing's a monster. And been tinkering with that, sort of ironing out all the bugs. They never work out of the box when you buy from China. After it takes you 3 to 4 hours sort of assembling it, the tweaking and the modifications and stuff that goes with it, hours and hours. And I can see people having frustrations with buying these things, expecting, you know, it's a kit, put it together, work out the box. Fortunately, it's not the case. It's super intensive, and the problem solving is quite deep if you haven't been involved with that sort of thing before. Obviously the more expensive pre-built or semi-assembled kits do go a long way. I'll give you the Prusa i3, I guess, would be one of those models. Even those out of the box still need a bit of tweaking and tinkering. But yeah, 3D printing is definitely, in fact, I'll see if I can, I'll give you an example of one of my little projects. I haven't shown this on the tubes before. Well, I'm all right. So this is a camera slider. Now, I don't know, these ends here are printed in PLA, aluminium tubes or aluminum tubes. I'm going to go with aluminium because that's what we say in Australia. And a camera mount, and I don't think I can power this up. Oh, I might be able to power it up now. Stepper motor this end. All parts were designed in Fusion 360. So if you're not familiar with that, that's a CAD program that allows you to design 3D models, send them to a slicer, which is a software where a 3D printer can then understand that model in slices. If you can look at, I don't know if you can see the texture. Definitely 3D printed. The box, the control box itself. This is a prototype. By no means was this meant to be a finished product as far as mass manufacture. And a control box. So basically the premise is the camera gets mounted and it traverses left to right at a set given speed, and it makes your scene pan and gives a bit more interest. A bit like, well, not like this at the moment where it's sitting statically. This will then make it pan left to right. It needs some more, I guess, refinements in the code because it's not as smooth as I would like. So this is probably an example of a fairly extensive project. What I can do, I think I will crack it and see if I can plug it in and give it a go. I'll just get the power brick that fell off the shelf with it earlier. That was that bang you heard. Power point's down here. Hopefully, just noticed I've robbed the stepper motor cable, because that was the inlet there, so I can't show you. I probably can show you it lit up. Does a boot. I'm going to cover that part of the screen up because that's actually got my name in it. You can probably just see. I'll give you my first name. Oh, it's not my first name, it's just my initials. Well, for anyone that needs to know, my first name is Adam. That's how you can refer to me. So Adam is behind XYZ Concepts. So this just gives you RPM mode and time mode, which is just a time lapse. If you had a time lapse camera on there, this would move a given distance in a set amount of time. So for instance, if you had a 2-hour time lapse set up, you could have this move only very slowly. So at least the time lapse over the footage gives it the impression that the camera's panning. So that's quite a neat little feature. It does work But I did rob some parts for another project, and I think I robbed that part for 3D printer, because the 3D printer uses very similar stepper motors. So that's where that is. Hey, Dan, there you go, mate. So that's one of the projects that I've had working on and tinkering around, a bit of design work, and it's been interesting, especially that slider. I was inspired by another guy, can't remember his name. In fact, I think it was a commercially made product, and I looked at that and went, "Ooh, I wonder if I can knock one of those up using a bit of 3D printing and a bit of coding on the Arduino, because it's an Arduino-based project." And yeah, sure enough, a few nights out in the shed, a definite few drinks, I guess, and then you end up with a project that's seemingly functional. Needs refinement, but it's okay. So yeah, that's one of the items I've got. I might just, oh, in fact, I was meant to start some background tunes. I don't know whether you guys might want that. It might break up the background silences, but I'll just throw that on. If it's too much, let us know and I'll can it. But it's just something in the background. See how that works out. So yeah, feel free, ask any questions about previous projects or how you came to find the channel, because that's always interesting to me. If you've got something in common, or someone recommended it, or you just stumbled across it, that's always handy for me to know. I guess I can draw on what type of videos garner the most interest, and then we can work on if I target that specific set of videos. Because I don't specialize in one particular area, I am aware that it doesn't serve everyone's interest, because I can be a bit all over the shop. Not a lot of people, I guess, would have a broad interest scope, whereas I'm into a bit of everything as far as manufacturing, design work, 3D printing, metal work, fabrication, all sorts of stuff. So even do my own repairs around the house. So if I don't need to get a trade in, because quite frankly, I'm not fond of trades. I'd rather do the job myself. So that's where I'm at. Oh, Kevin, you follow. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you follow Gadget. Yep. Oh, I definitely. Yeah, I've been getting into his live streams lately. He's a lot of fun. Well, it's a lot of fun for me, and it's entertaining enough that I don't mind contributing. So he commented in one of my videos, I think, a while back. I don't think it was number 30. It was probably, I can't remember what video it was, but I did the expansion card battery mod, because due to corrosion and the real-time clock, I got the watch battery, the point cell mod done to it. Works out well. That card is in my 500, my A500. So that's where that comes from. I'm thinking about doing a gaming live stream using the Amiga and some of the older nostalgic games. So I don't know, I used to play a fair few, and I've got access to those games at the moment. So it's been awesome. Might do a gaming night or morning, depending on where you are. So I do say so a lot, so I'm done it again. Apologies. I'll try to be aware of that. I'm going to bring up video 17, which was this little guy. I did a review teardown on this, so anyone that watches this video in the future, when it's not live, take comfort in the fact that you may feel like it was a pretty dramatic video, but I don't joke around when it comes to hazards that could potentially burn your house down. So whether in your opinion, I was over the top or whatever. That's your opinion, you're entitled to that. But all in all, my video has got that message out, just to be mindful that these, or any cheap Chinese product, just give it a check over if you're able, or have someone that can check it over. Just have a look over it, because it's not worth it. In my line of work, I've seen numerous burnt down houses and fire damaged houses, and it's just something so trivial. Get it checked out. So I'm not going to apologize for being dramatic, if that's your perception of that video, at least anyway. It had a message in it, and I wanted to get that message out. Even as it stands, if you check that video out now, look at the description, because I had to update that because I did overlook an item in that video that I edited out for some reason. It does not have case earthed. The case is not earthed. It is anodized aluminium or aluminum, whoever, how you want to say it, but it is not earthed. There is a mod you can do to earth it, fairly simple, and I'll do a video on that shortly about what you can do to make the case safe. So in a fault condition, this case could become live and there'll be no protection. Your RCDs won't recognize it, won't trip, won't save your life, you'll get a shock. So definitely. That's what I'm going to say on that video, that part. Okay, so Wolfenstein's really benchmarked the FPS. Yeah. Wolfenstein. That's early PC. Was it? Could you get it on the Amiga? I only remember playing it on the PC, on the early 386s. I'll have a look into that. I definitely have played Wolfenstein though, but I don't know if I played it on the Amiga. We'll check it out. So, this is another project that I've had a few comments on, and it was the GH5S, powering it from a power tool battery. Let me just quickly get that power tool battery. One of these. Now this is just slots onto the bottom of your whatever power tool you have. In this case I've got there's an angle grinder. Straight up angle grinder. Way it goes. I'm not going to start it up in case you're wearing headphones. And so you can buy those little adapters. Now try and forget about this little fly lead, but you can buy these little adapters which turn the battery into a power bank. You've got USB ports here. So I've utilised that for, in fact it's powering the GoPro that's doing this live stream at the moment, and keeping my little control panel charged. This just clips on top of the battery like so, and then it gives you two 5-volt outputs. I believe it's a 2.1 volt, 2.1 amp and a 1 amp output. And then this guy, all this does is attached to this fly lead, which is soldered directly to the terminals on the battery. So we've got the 18 volts. This is an 18 volt battery pack. We've got the 18 volts applied here. And then this is just the step down buck converter. DC barrel jack, and it goes. And then that goes into the box, and outside out of this port is 8.4 volts, which equates to a fully charged GH5S battery. Let's see if I can get that out. This camera is not in part of the stream, so I'm not going to lose anything. So it says 7.2 volt, but that's nominal voltage, it's not the charge voltage. 8.4 volts charged. And then you can buy on eBay these little dummy batteries, and they are meant to take place of the actual battery. And then with that supply gets plugged straight into the dummy battery. We have the 8.4 volts coming out. That goes into the camera, and then all of a sudden you've probably quadrupled the capacity, if not more. I haven't done a proper test yet just to see how long I'll get out of it. But if you can imagine, this battery here says 14 watt hours. And I think this one going to tell me. No, it's not. Might be on the top. Oh yeah, it's on the top. 36, or is it more than that? Should have done my homework before I started the stream. 94 watt hours. 94. So from 14 to 94 watt hours. So, and you're only drawing a couple of watts when your camera's running. So I don't have to, I can do a day's shooting, if not more. Probably more than a day's shooting. I think my memory cards will fill up right up before the battery will deplete. So that is, now I don't know whether these are, well, I know you can get power tool batteries worldwide. This is the Azedo brand. I don't know whether they're sold anywhere else in the world. And this is obviously an Azedo branded power adapter, but I think they do come out in other names, not the name brands, at the same format. So all it is an interface to the battery, and then you've got yourself an instant power bank. So I leveraged on that and decided to make this power supply for the camera, because I'd get an hour and a half shooting out of this guy, and I was constantly waiting for it to charge. And when you're on a roll doing a shoot, and look at me, I sound like a professional, but when you're on a roll and you've got the thought process going, the last thing you want is to be completely interrupted by saying, oh damn, the battery's stopped now, I've got to stop and start pick up where I left off later. You sort of lose that flow. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Now this is flowing along like I didn't expect it to flow as well as this, but I was hoping for a few more takers though. I've got 6. Too bad. One of them is my moderator. Not that I need one. So what else could I talk about? My editing. I've got a note here. I've had a few comments on my videos in relation to my editing style. Well, not editing style, but I'm learning. I've started from zero. Back in January 2019, I had the most basic editing skills, if any. And then I've sort of taken inspiration from other YouTubers to see what they do, how they arrange their videos. And I'm nowhere near satisfied where I'm at the moment. It's been more of a content and message type deal rather than making something fantastical. Now I don't know if putting that extra time and effort into polishing a video adds any value to it. Could you just shoot a video in its raw format, crop out bits you don't like and then just upload it? So trying to find that balance is probably one of the hardest things to do. And editing is one of the longest processes in this whole YouTube gig. You can shoot a video, you can build a project, you can do whatever you like, but when it comes to editing, it's a massive process if you want to really put effort into it. Now I do believe I have had some positive feedback on some of my videos, but it's just, I'm learning, always learning, and I enjoy learning. I will try to improve on my skills over time. I think you might be able to see if you've watched my videos from the first one. Don't rush out and do that. Just how the videos have evolved over time. The thumbnails have gotten better. Content might be a little bit better. Probably I still sound a little bit dry during the videos, but I'm not one of those people that are really flamboyant and really have to be 120%. It feels awkward, I guess. I don't know if anyone out there that watches this video in the future has that same sort of feeling. I'd rather just concentrate on the content and the message. Maybe polish the video up if it's worth it. I mean, video 30 I did with the Amiga 2000. Because of the vintage and the age of the computer and all that sort of stuff, I really dove into a different editing style. And I mean, I like the end product, and I did some extra, let's say, enthusiastic voiceovers, but I think at the end of the day, it hasn't had a lot of views, that video. It's crazy to me. But then again, the retro scene is probably not as big as someone buying a cheap Chinese soldering iron, because that video is my best performer. And it just blows me away. In fact, all my review videos, the review video of the Minleaf DC power supply, this guy, a DC load, electronic load, has been an absolute hoot. I mean, that's what I do. If I was to say I specialise in anything, I guess the electronic side of things is where I'm at with that. But yeah, it's been a good journey. It's been an insightful one. It's been eye-opener, and it's a lot of work. But at the same time, I really enjoy it. So if anyone wants to make any suggestions going forward, I'm happy to keep. Well, I am happy to keep the channel going. There's no reason for me to stop it. I do like creating content, and I think I'm getting to a point where the more I learn and the more I sort of really hone those skills, it sort of gets easier. You know what I mean? But yeah, but this live streaming gig is 100% new to me, and I got cold feet coming into it. Tell you what. Yeah. So, I don't think there's much to talk about. If there's any commentary coming back out from the chat, I'm happy to address anything. I'll just pop that there. What have we got? Adding all grinders, battery. Yeah, well, you can't stand it up. I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Yeah, so my video plan was to probably not go much longer than an hour, but just wanted to touch on a few things with my previous videos, bit of background on myself, and yeah, just a hobbyist. I'm not, by any means, I'm not an electronics engineer at any stretch, but I have had formal education in the fundamentals and all that sort of stuff years ago, and I've sort of built on that going forward. And I'm always reading, I'm always understanding, I'm always in data sheets. I'm a complete nerd when it comes to that sort of thing. And I just really want to understand everything electrical in that regard. So it's been really cool journey. And I've got a busy brain. I'm just always looking for something. I'm always looking for something. I'm always wanting to input. I'm craving that input. ADHD, it's a curse. It's an absolute curse. I don't know if you can hear my chair squeaking. I apologise for that. So, I'm blown away with the support. Absolutely blown away with the support on the channel. Subscribers even 311, I think, as of tonight, as of this live stream. It's had an exponential, it's just shot up. It's been absolutely amazing to see people actually subscribing to you and your content. It makes you, it's motivating. It does motivate. And I always look at my comments and take on board the positive criticisms, and you know, you could have done this better. Maybe you could have shown this. In the back of my mind during the shooting of the video, that sort of thing is always there, but there's always so much information, and to make sure you capture it all, unless you sit down prior to the video and really plan it out, which I don't normally do. I just get down to the video and say, right, I'm going to show this, this and that and the other. Stop the video, go and edit. So that's my style at the moment, but I think I may need to look at, maybe I might need to look at planning a video before I shoot it, rather than just shooting it and editing it and trying to make it better from the raw stock that I had anyway. What's that? Check out some old videos. Wow, it's not on VHS. Thank you very much. I do, yeah. Oh, that reminds me. I have a video that someone's asked me questions on very recently for my milling machine, HM35 mill drill, which is directly in front of me. And I converted that to CNC. Now the question was asked, that particular machine's not made anymore, and that's fine. This is 2008 vintage when I did this project. I got no video of it, unfortunately, because I never thought I'd be going to YouTube with it. They can't get this machine anymore, but they can get an HM46 and a HM47. Now, when I say HM, it's Hare and Forbes Machinery Warehouse, and that's in Australia. So this is only really relevant to Australians. The DNA in the machine, the base and the head castings remain unchanged. So anything I showed in that video, as far as retrofitting the CNC gear, stepper motors, the brackets, the control gear, should be the same. I've just looked at the website that these machines are on, and I can pretty much categorically say that it will still work. So the intent and the whole fit up is very similar. So I can definitely do a more in-depth video on that. But unfortunately, a lot of the work is done underneath the XY table in the base casting. There's a lot of cutting out to do, because the main reason is the Y travel. There's a ball screw that runs down from front to back of the machine, and there's a nut that runs on that lead screw called a ball nut. And that ball nut needs a housing, and that housing, because of the size of the ball nut, is huge compared to the original setup. So that is probably one of the biggest modifications you have to do to the casting, in that you've got to cut out more of the slot that runs up and down the machine. So that is a consideration. So anyone looking to do that conversion needs to look at that setup, because it's a bit of cutting and grinding. It's sort of devastating to hacking at your base casting, but it's not a lot of hacking, but it's still hacking. And you've got to just be mindful that you don't want to overdo it or cut too much, because you can upset the casting itself. But yeah, it's probably one of my other biggest endeavors as far as projects are concerned, which is great because it has allowed me to do other projects. One that comes to mind straight away is eliminating the bed walk of my Connex Y3D printer. That machine did all the rails. I cut out the rails, machined the slots, and had all the linear guide bearings pressed into those rails. It worked out so well. I was blown away at how well it did work, and I think I fluked it to a certain degree. So it's been a godsend. Some of the projects you couldn't normally do by hand. Definitely helps to have something that's CNC related or CNC controlled. I do have a recent addition. Don't know if you can see that down in there. That's a 1 meter square router, CNC router. Actually, what am I doing? I can probably move the camera around. That's the beauty of having this camera on my Wi-Fi. Unplug it and I can walk around with it. So it's probably in the dark. I don't know how well that'll turn out. Oh no, that seems to be all right. So I'm completely untethered now. Got my wireless mic on, got my wireless camera, and I'm walking around my workshop. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess at the moment because I've got a couple of projects laid out on it. I mean, it doesn't look like it, but it is. This spindle is not the stock spindle. It has been modified because I think the stock mount was to hold a Makita trimmer or a DeWalt trimmer. I can't remember now, but this bracket here was one piece. I did cut it down the middle here. And the way I cut that down is a little bit how you doing, but it did the job. And I didn't have a slitting disc deep enough to cut through this whole depth, if you can see that. And I had to separate these two halves, or make two halves at least, because the holes in this back plate, the centers were that little bit further apart, and I couldn't leave this in one hit, in one piece. But anyway, it's worked out in the end, and it's actually more rigid for it. So it's just the way it's worked out. And then when I say the method of cutting it down was a bit how you doing, that's why. That is a circular saw blade, but you might be pleased to know it is actually mounted into a proper slitting disc arbor, and that was responsible for cutting through the depth of that spindle bracket, because it was mounted in this cast iron right angle, and then that was bolted to the bracket was bolted to this. This was set in the appropriate height, and then using the controller here, which is just a laptop, I was hitting. Oh, it's actually popped off again. Oh no, now I broke it. Anyway, that's why you need live video, because all these things happen. As I was saying, this was approaching into the item I was cutting in half, the bracket, but it was all manually controlled. So I just dialed down the speed, the feed rate, held the finger on the button, and then did the cut, and it did it completely perfectly fine. Mind you, this was only spinning at 200 RPM, so it was only just spinning over, not fast at all, so it wasn't really dangerous. You know, if you're using any cutting tools or cutting machine tools, you don't stick your hand in them anyway. While I'm over here, some projects on the go with some old speakers, that USB speakers that have given up the ghost. Still technically work, but see if I can just show you. There's some goo or some silicone sealant that's gone hard, and obviously, not obviously, but it has developed a resistance. And because it's spread all over the circuitry, it's upset the circuit over time. So I'm in the middle of scraping all that off and trying to get any of that crap off there. Hopefully the circuit will come back. It's promising. The testing so far promising that will happen. So if you have any old appliances or any old electronics, just have a look. If it's got this elastic or any sort of sealant over the circuit itself, and you're pretty handy with electronics, just put a multimeter across it. You'll find that it's got a resistance as it ages. So when it's new, it's not so much of a problem. But when you over a few years, it can cause issues. Classic example was Dave at EEV blog had a set of studio monitor speakers, exact same issue. Had some black elastic or something, and caused issues. It looks fairly harmless in itself, but definitely got problems. Hey Nathan, how you going? We'd love to see a workshop tour. Okay, that's probably not a bad idea. What I might do is I'm going to throw some extra lights on and see what we can do. Now the workshop's not in an optimal condition at the moment, but I'll give you an idea. It's actually quite it's quite a bit of a mixed bag at the moment, because I am still sorting things out and finding homes for things. So here it goes. We'll start with, this is the entry door that I use normally. There's a sliding door down the other end, which I hardly use, only if I'm moving in and out big items. So this is my office. Just above that entrance is my audio gear and some homemade speakers for the shop. There's one down the other end, exact same thing, just mirror image. And that belts out some awesome sounds when I'm in here on my own and not shooting videos. This is my development part of the office. Is one of my, that's a big 3D printer that I was talking about earlier. Currently in, well, the top is in bits at the moment, because I've been modelling up and making new bracketry for the head extruder. So if anyone's familiar with 3D printing, there's an extruder that goes on the plastic for the plastic side of things. Oh, here it is. This is the new model I'm going to put on compared to what the other one was. This is a direct drive system. Hopefully that's in focus. I can't see anything at the moment. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. So that is a direct drive extruder. The previous model was a Bowden type, which means it had a remote stepper motor gear pushing it through a PFTE, anyway, like a nylon tube to the nozzle head. But with that, it was very unreliable because during your print you need to have a definite retraction of the filament. Otherwise you'll get, if the retraction is not good enough, you'll get stringing and all sorts of crap going on in your print. And that's exactly what's happening with this machine. So I'm now converting it to a direct drive. Underneath there is my first ever baby 3D printer, the K8200 by Velman. I've since modified it quite extensively, but it works great. It does work great and it's perfect, but it's just been shoved out of the way for the time being. And it still works and it's still fully there. I haven't robbed any parts off it. So yeah, that's what that is. Laser engraver, hand sanitizer, because you can't get that anymore. This is just a 5-watt laser engraver. Now I've had, it's CNC as well, by the way, everything's bloody CNC. That's my head mount for my GoPro, don't need to see that. So yeah, this is another toy, basically a toy, but saying that, it's very handy because it does do marking up. I have made a power supply in the past. Oh, actually, I might be able to show you. Yeah, this is a modified, used to be an old water cooler, PC water cooler. Now, if you can see the faceplate, it's very lightly etched. Now, this is a piece of ACP. And when I say ACP, it's the aluminium composite panel that's been in the news lately with buildings burning. And I've just etched it with the laser to put my markings on it. Output, toggle output, menu. And this has all been set up. And this is a power supply, by the way. But it's all digitally adjusted. So there's all push buttons and stuff. There's no, well, apart from the output jacks. So that's an example of what the machine could do, this laser etcher. So I've been really looking to find more ways of utilizing this into the workflow of designing bits and pieces. So this screen here at the moment is my systems monitor for my Linux server that this camera is connected to, so you can see it on my YouTube stream. Don't ask, I'll explain it later. If anyone wants a video of how I've done that, I can do it. I'll let you know. And this is just a general bits and pieces area, bit of reference material, spare parts for 3D printing. Like I said, it's not ideal at the moment. It has been cleaner than this, but this is just an impromptu video of a workshop tour. So coming around, wash facilities, a bit more bits and pieces, gardening bits and pieces, spare washing machine parts, all that sort of crap. PCs, I collect PCs. I don't know why, but I do. They all work. They've all got little, well, apart from ones that are missing parts, that's all been sort of selected and labelled up, so I know exactly what's what. Electrical, aluminium offcuts, aluminum offcuts. This is going into my melting bin because I'm going to make a forge. My welding trolley. TIG. Plasma cutter, MIG, argon. So that's what that is. So that's all my welding gear. The computer spare parts. This is an Amiga 500. This is my older one. Not great condition. my good ones in the office in another tub like this. Spare parts, PC spare parts, old amplifiers and printers. Probably for parts, who knows. Bit of a mixture. Spare parts, nuts and bolts. Some old SLA batteries. I'm just going to check the chat. How big is the space? So the space is 70 square meters. Now I'm not going to do a conversion into square feet, but it's lots of square feet. So dumping ground at the moment is just my stand-up bench, and my stand-up bench has retractable wheels. I can't show you how it works at the moment because I've got crap all in there. But if you watch a video from Wesley Treat, he's got a YouTube channel. He inspired me in making my own version of retractable wheels. So this whole thing, although it's fairly sturdy and stout, I can kick a lever on that end, lift it all up, move it around the workshop. Even when it's fully loaded. It's absolutely fantastic. Hydraulic press, manual hydraulic press, scroll saw, more crap I'll just dump here for the time being. It's a bit of a landing ground for all sorts of things at the moment. This here is my small CNC router, still functioning with a little air pump for blowing off the cutter. Bandsaw, recent acquisition, very handy. Sandblaster, dust collector. Wow, this is not that impressive as far as my mess is concerned. I didn't realize it was that bad. It is that bad. Belt sander, mini drill press, more stuff of stuff. Electronic spare parts, hardcore electronic spare parts like big componentry, electronic spare parts there, hoses, cables, extrusions. Don't know why I've got an old dryer up there. I think I was turning it into a tumbler of some sort one day, probably. All sorts of plastic, because I'm wishing to grind up the plastic, remelt it down and reform it. It's mainly all thermal plastics. So, but that's another few videos down the track. Box of old Amiga magazines. This is like nostalgia central right here. Amiga user, May 1995. Robocod. Oh no, that's James Pond. Holy hell. I'm gonna have to go through all that because that's absolute gold in there. More electronics, bits and pieces, steel, fabricating, floor fabricating, floor pedestal drill. Then we come around to my electronics area. So that is just long stock steel, aluminum, wood, bits and pieces that I'm always coming into. I'm just going to check the chat to make sure I'm not leaving anyone out. Nathan, how did I get into electronics? I was always keen on it since a kid. Pulling things apart and just tearing them down, seeing how they work. To the detriment of the parents. Their hard-earned dollars pulled into little tiny bits. Alright, where was I? Yes, my electronics bench, I've shown that before. Brief overview. This is just the PC area with a digital microscope. Basically looking up references and data sheets, programming Arduino, and that sort of business. Test leads, soldering irons, jumper leads. Pretty much all that is talk about there. Hot air station, desoldering gun, my Hacko, unless it's cotton socks. Doesn't get used as much nowadays because I've got the KSGER unit. More test leads, bits and pieces, heat shrink, lots and lots of heat shrink. Then I've got the graveyard. It's sort of a graveyard, but it's also sort of my electronics store. Eventually, this desk is where old things go to die and part salvaging begins. So I've got tubs of salvage capacitors, bits and pieces, 18650s, foil tape. That's not salvage, but that's where I've headed. Air parts, Excuse me, I gotta take a drink. I'm getting a bit. Oh, just smacked my microphone. Sorry about that. The what do we got here? Stepper motors, bits and pieces. I don't know why hardware's in there, but anyway, this is where all my sort of part salvaging takes place. Anything that's salvaged and sorted, even new stock, ends up into my little bins here. So I've got, you know, connectors and crocodile clips and all that sort of stuff for my project development. I try to keep a good stock of everything I need. I don't want to run out of things mid-project and have to wait 4 weeks to order something from China or wherever. Most of my shopping's done on Banggood or eBay. Whoever's got what I need fairly cheaply. Old resistor stock, new resistor stock, bearings and whatnot. And JST connectors, old fans, old little mini power supplies. Anything that I will find useful to go into a little project. Crap like that I wouldn't even pee on if it was on fire. So more electronic stuff, heavy duty heat sinks, high power stuff in here, more junk needs sorting, more junk needs sorting. You can even see one of it's labelled electronic junk for parts harvesting. And that's basically what it is. What else? Oh, hot glue gun sticks. Need hot snot. There it is. Plenty of it. Toolboxes. So my tools are pretty much organised. The mill, godsend. I will do another in-depth video on this baby. In fact, I might just show you while I'm here. I hope my camera's still running. That'd be embarrassing. So this is going to arc up. There we go. This motor up here replaced the original. This is a 3-phase induction motor. It did have a single-phase induction motor. Got rid of that because you can't use single-phase motors with 3-phase VFD. So with that, let me get this guy out of the way. RS485 communication. For those familiar with any of that, just a little dongle. Mach 3. A lot of people are moving away from Mach 3 now because there's a lot of USB-based controllers out there. So for instance, let's go back to my story when I spoke about cutting the bracket in half. So what I would do is set my spindle speed. We'll go to MDI. I've just got my old ones in there, so we'll do S200. So spindle 200 RPM. We set that parameter, and then hopefully with any luck, M3, which is spindle clockwise. And we should hit enter, and with any luck it starts. Oh, there you go. So you can see that spinning up, and that's the speed it was doing when I was cutting through that bracket, that spindle bracket, a while back. And then we want to stop. M5 is a G code, well it's an M code to stop, and it all stops. Obviously you can change your speed on the fly. So if we were to go M3, start, and so we want a little bit more RPM, so we'll type S500, so we'll go to 500 RPM, hit enter. There we go. Away you go, cutting at 500 RPM. Then we issue an M5 command, stops. Apart from the table moving around, which I haven't got that set up, here's a little bit of a prototype controller. It does work. I just haven't got, I don't think I've got it all hooked up power-wise. That's only powered from the USB connector. So I don't know if I've bored you guys to tears yet, but I'll go and check the chat and make sure I haven't missed anything. Actually, I'll just go, this is just some stock, mainly my heavy duty stock, small pieces of it. It sits right next to the mill because that's where I'll normally work on it. Strap clamps for the mill. Back of the Mac, which is giving you the feed you're watching. Actually not a Mac, it's a Windows based Mac. Got rid of the Mac software. Alright, let me double check. Did I end up going to uni? No, I didn't. I actually dropped out of college. After I left high school, I would love a space like this. Oh yeah, Kevin, it's unbelievable. It's taken me 30 years to get something like this myself. Actually, I'll turn this around so I can address you guys. You know what, I'll finish the tour first because I've got one more thing. Good old Amiga 2000, that's going to be in plenty of other videos. Okay, this is more or less my hardcore area. And when I say hardcore area, it's the bigger electrical stuff. Electrical tubs, I've got a copper stash. I don't know how well this is going to come out on video. Oh, it's not too bad. Copper tubes and copper plates, big fuses. When I say hardcore, I mean hardcore. This was out of a big 3-phase welder. And I believe these are fuses, and these fuses are still good. So that's hardcore, all right. Round stock normally ends up in this thing here, my lathe. This is where I do all my turning. So hopefully you can see all that. I have done a recent project, but I can't remember what it was, sorry. It ended up in something round, I can tell you that. Anyway, cutting bits and pieces, cutting stock. This is all tool steel, varying shapes and sizes, and they will fit into my various tool holders depending on what I'm cutting. I tend to use carbide bits more than anything else. It seems to be a lot, well, it's more forgiving and it cuts better, I think. In behind here is an old Kmart oven. Just lower that down, which I have modified to have fuzzy logic control. So I used to use this to heat treat my 3D prints. Now when I heat treat 3D prints, you only heat treat them at like 50 or 60 degrees at the glass transition area. So if say your print melts out at 215 degrees or whatever, like I think the PLA that I have melts at that, you can actually add a bit more toughness to the print, so I believe, by heat treating it for a certain amount of time at a fixed lower temperature. Just helps everything sort of come in together between the layers and add that extra bit of strength. So that's what that is. Bits and pieces, more stock, more crap. But all bits and pieces that I'll dive into one day. It'll come in handy. And an array of broken and good monitors I've collected over the years. I think 90% of them still work. And that looks dangerous, so I'll fix that later. And then my roof is basically where I have all these struts in for attaching lighting and bits and pieces. If you can see down the back is a green screen all the way along. I've been doing some experimentation with green screens. So it's been fun. It's a learning curve, but it's been fun. All right, back to the table. Just get set up again. How are you guys traveling anyway? You've had enough? Because I don't have to go all night. What do we got? Did you end up going to uni for EE? I was explaining that before. No, I didn't. I just completely self-taught and just reading a lot. It does take a lot to, and when you are learning yourself and trying to determine what information is correct and what information might be misleading, it's a bit of a skill. You've got to know what's reasonable. So far, the information out there on YouTube, on the internet, is not too bad. It certainly won't lead you astray. There's a few out there that are a bit, a bit dodgy. I can't remember any at the moment because I steer away from them. I don't jump in their comment section and call them out. There's no point. Someone else will do that. So that's the way I look at things. Unless it's completely dangerous and going to lead someone into hurting themselves pretty bad. So yeah, that's electronics is a hobby for me, like I said, and it's interesting to me, and that's what I enjoy. Tinkering with test gear. And this guy here, I did have a comment asking about schematics and my design process and all that sort of business. This was basically made from salvage parts. So I can provide a schematic, no problem, but the filtering part of this circuit, if you watch back in that video, it was plug and play for me to determine what was going to do the best job. So without pulling each component out, measuring it, and then trying to find an equivalent new part, the filtering section of this circuit for the DH5S power supply is plugged into the scope, and I'm soldering in and out different chokes and different RF filters and watching the noise coming out of the power supply under load. Now, when I say under load typically expected or drawn by the camera, plus a bit more. So you got a bit of headroom there as well. So I think I was drawing about 1.2 amps. The camera only really draws 800 milliamps, recording 4K. So as long as I could satisfy the output power, I got it down to about 10 millivolts, which is epically clean for a switching power supply. So I was pretty happy with that. Am I Aussie? Most certainly, born and bred. And yeah, no problem with the workshop tour. It's a bit of an all over the shop at the moment, but I think it works out all right. Yes, I'm an Aussie. I've been lived in WA all my life, so I'm based in Perth. So definitely proud to be an Aussie. Probably a good situation to be in given the current state. New South Wales. Excellent. Thanks, Nathan. Another Aussie. So, yeah. I think I've blabbed on long enough. This has gone a lot longer than I expected. Hour and 15 minutes, I think it was. What have I done? Yeah, about hour and 13 minutes. So, any other questions? Nathan, you're studying computer engineering at the University of Newcastle. Oh wow, okay, good stuff. You specialise in any sort of area? My computer knowledge is completely self-taught and trial and error. So that's about the extent of mine. For instance, the streaming setup I've got at the moment took me about 3 or 4 weeks to research the best way forward. Embedded systems, okay. All right, so embedded systems, you're talking about FPGAs and all that sort of stuff. I think that's where that heads, if I'm not wrong. Because that'd be cool. That's a big future in FPGA. I might be in the wrong track. Yeah, FPGA and ARM. Yeah, okay. Good stuff. There's big future in retro stuff with FPGA, and in different cores you can just plug in and away you go. So I'm led to believe. Exciting times. Exciting times. You can replicate one of these old things on one chip. You ended up getting that main leaf power supply. Did you find the connector socket on the back power supply a bit loose? They're a bit average. In fact, let me just go jump over and get it. Yeah, you don't want loose connectors, because especially on the main side, the safest way to deal with that, I would suggest, is maybe just change it out with a name brand, or at least a sort of, I don't know, McMaster car or whoever does RS components at least. So yeah, that's the min leaf unit, and then we'll it's crazy loose. You're dead right, and that's just ridiculous. It doesn't take much at all. And if it is that loose and it's arcing under load, arcing means heat. Heat means fire. So yeah, it's not ideal. Now I'll just go get another IEC cable and just see if it's not related to the plug itself. It could be a bit of both actually. Well, I've just got to turn that VFD off. The fan on that is obnoxious. Takes a few seconds for the capacitors to drain out. Right, let's have a look. This is another IUC cable. Better, but not great. It's slightly, has a bit more friction on that, but it's not the best. As well as that, the socket's loose in the back of the chassis as well. I don't know if you can see that. That's not so much of a big issue, but that falling out without much at all is a bit of a drama. But easily fixed. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can probably just bend in the two little pins, like the neutral and live pins, just inwards or outwards, just a little bit to add a little bit more friction to the plug itself. Not advisable, but it may help with possible arcing from a loose connection. Arrested damage, yeah, I know. They are expensive. Yeah, it does wiggle around. The socket itself doesn't, it's solid in the chassis. Well, that, yeah, I mean, that could be just the way the holes are punched on the chassis itself when they're going through the punch. Or the quality of the plastic as well, of the socket. Yeah, the gauge of the chassis is a bit, how you doing? I think it's a bit too light, but then it's an $80 landed, $80 product. It all adds to cost. All adds to cost. I am dry as. Been crapping on for over an hour. Maybe I should pull some more keys off his keyboard. They're going to be designing for everyone. Have to head off now. Thanks for the stream. Looking forward to more. Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Thanks for coming in. It's been really good. I will sort of do more streams, I think, especially if projects progress. But yeah, thanks for dropping in. Really appreciate it. Might see you again at one of Gadget's streams. I'll probably jump in there and do some commenting. Good stuff. All right. Anything else anyone would like to talk about? Any of my previous videos? Anything like that? Anything of the workshop tour you might want more info on? Anything? I'll probably go until everyone's happy with where we're at the moment, and then yeah, probably call it. This video definitely had no structure, so it was just whatever happened basically. I didn't expect to do a tour, but that's fine. I'm not too fussed with that. I think of what I did have some other issue that I need to discuss. Completely left me. Yeah, I don't want any silences in my videos. That's okay. All good. All right. Pretty much going to call it at the moment. If there's any future viewers of this video and I've touched on the subject that you want more info on, feel free to throw a comment. I'm pretty sure this video is going to go straight up once I've finished. I'm not touching it, I'm not editing it. It's going to be exactly what it is. Just make sure I'll review all the comments anyway, and the chat. If I've missed anything in the chat, I'll address that in the comments as well, and go from there. But I'm pretty sure I've covered off everyone's question, I believe. Just making sure now. Yeah, all good. Yep, got your comments, Nathan. You must address all those. That's excellent. All right. Thanks for coming, guys. And I'll probably see you in the future stream, or see you in someone else's stream. And we'll leave it at that. Alrighty. I'll catch you next time. See ya.